Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to PFAFF Facebook Live. I'm Laura, and I am here today to talk to you about learning to embroider. Today's topic is aimed at the entry-level embroiderer. Maybe you just got your first machine, but if you've been embroidering for a while, maybe you'll still learn a few tricks or tips. And if you have any tips or tricks, feel free to pop those in the comments. I hope you're all staying warm. There's some unseasonably cold weather out here. Houston is below freezing, which is crazy. But let's talk about something more fun. Let's go to embroidery. So when you learn to embroider, there are differences between sewing and embroidery. So let's talk about needles, thread, stabilizer, hoops. The first thing is needles. I have in front of me a sewing needle and an embroidery needle. I am going to pull these up close for you to see. I'm going to slowly zoom in. I'm going to put some fabric behind here to help see the contrast. Embroidery needles have a much larger hole than a sewing needle. That is to help reduce thread breakage. Your embroidery gets going pretty fast, and that extra room in there reduces stress on the thread. One thing to note about all PFAFF needles is the hole isn't square. Let me see if I can bring this back up here. The hole is oval. That also reduces breakage. If your thread is shredding, it most likely means that the upper part of your needle here, let's see if I can get this flipped. The upper part of the hole, the thread makes actually a groove along the top of that hole just from normal wear and usage. And when you get shredding thread, it's normally time to change your needle. A needle is good for 6 to 8 hours of usage, depending on the density of the embroidery, the density of the fabric, and combination thereof. So, in essence, just make sure you have an embroidery needle. You'll probably be good to go. In an emergency, you can use whatever needle. You'll just experience more thread breakage. Now let's talk about thread. In regular sewing, we use the same thread on top and in the bobbin. This gives us stitches that look the same on both sides. In embroidery, it's different. We'll use a thicker thread on the top, embroidery thread, and a thinner thread in the bobbin thread. So here is the top and the bottom. I don't know if it will show up on camera. Let's see. Wow. So the sewing thread, in general, sewing thread is 50 weight. And in general, your embroidery thread is going to be 40 weight for your top thread and 60 weight for your bobbin thread. And this weight differential causes your stitches to pull. It causes your top thread to pull back. In regular sewing, you'd be like, oh no, my tension. But in embroidery, it's correct. So you can see we've used white bobbin thread here, and it has pulled, like here's where some of the beak is pulling. That's correct. That's what gives us are nice smooth edges and little details that you wouldn't normally get in sewing mode because different technique, right? All right. There are a few exceptions to this. When making freestanding lace, you will most likely use the same thread on top and in the bobbin. This is my purple Valentine for my friend who loves purple. So we've got the light and the dark, but yeah. So that is an exception. Another exception is if you are using metallic thread, we don't want to put metallic thread in the bobbin. So we can just use regular sewing thread, or we can use an embroidery. We just want something that's an approximate color match. The top thread will still pull to the back a little bit since there is still a little weight differential. All right. Do we have any questions yet?
No questions yet. Just everybody saying hi.
No questions yet in what?
Everybody is just saying hi.
Hello, everyone. All right. Now we're going to talk about stabilizer. And that is usually the first challenge. Which stabilizer to use, when, why, how. We are going to go over the general idea here. There are many, many kinds of stabilizer. There's three main categories. We have tearaway, which is for wovens. You like my little homemade label here? Tearaway is for wovens, like backpacks, hats, bags. It tears away cleanly. So it's really easy to remove. And then there is cutaway, which is for wovens, and it doesn't rip. You'll use this for, cutaway is for knits. I hope I said that. Cutaway is for knits and clothing. For example, t-shirts, yoga pants. If you want to embroider on your swimsuit, you would use cutaway. You would also use cutaway on jeans, denim, even though denim is a woven. In general, you want to use cutaway on clothing because this is soft and permanent. So it's not going to shrink in the laundry, and it's going to stay there to support all those stitches. All right. The next kind is water soluble. Aqua Magic, I use a lot of this. This is what you would use on the back of like towels or blankets. It washes away completely. So while you might have a stretch or a woven blanket, I would still use Aqua Magic so that it dissolves away. You would also use this on sheer fabric. So if I was going to embroider on this, I would cut a piece of Aqua Magic the entire length of the scarf. And I'd probably start in the middle with my embroidery, like use an endless design and work my way to the end. Or if I just wanted the ends, then I could just do the ends. But again, I would use Aqua Magic for that. We also have something called topper. It goes on the top of anything that has nap or texture. PFAFF's topper, PFAFF has a couple of toppers. My favorite is Dissolve Away because you can just spritz it. You can put it through the wash, but you can also spritz it with water and toss it in the dryer or iron it or even hair dryer. I use this on anything that has nap or texture, towels, velvet, minky, fleece, upholstery fabric sometimes has texture on it. And when you put the topper on there, it holds down the nap and it makes the surface even and smooth so that your embroidery looks nice when you're done. Now I have a few examples to show you. This shirt is a knit, it's stretchy. So I should tell you, within each category of stabilizers, there's multiple other stabilizers. So I used cutaway, but specifically I used fusible whisper web mesh. And I used regular whisper web mesh. So what I did, you can see maybe, let me pull this up closer. I have a layer here and a layer here. So the fusible is right on the fabric. So I fused a layer of fusible whisper web mesh, and then I added another layer of regular whisper web mesh, and then I embroidered. And while it was hooped, it looked something like this. Hey. So here is my regular whisper web, my fusible. Let's see if I can. So here we go. Here's the fusible right next to the fabric. Here's the whisper web. I needed something, since this tank top is kind of thin, I needed something that would hold the density of the design. So one layer wasn't enough. I didn't want to use 2 layers. And the way I had to hoop it with this neckline open, I needed a piece of fabric or a piece of stabilizer that would go all the way outside the edge. When you cut your stabilizer, you want at least 1 inch to extend on each side of the hoop. That way it gets a good grip and you have less shifting. Why is stabilizer important? Because all fabrics stretch when you're embroidering. The needle goes down through the fabric and it pushes and stretches the fabric. Even if it's a woven, woven fabric's not going to stretch across the grain or with the grain, but it will stretch on the bias or the diagonal. And that is what we are trying to prevent, any kind of shifting or stretching. So yes, you have to use stabilizer. No, you can't get away with skipping it. Sorry. But if you have any trouble trying to pick out which stabilizer, your retailer will be happy to help you, whether it's a dealer or a gallery or whatever. Someone there will know and they'll help you, or you can always ask us too. All right. So we mentioned that there's different kinds of, let's see, I've got cutaway, fusible. We've got black fusible. I wear a lot of black shirts, so I use a lot of this. The shirt that I'm wearing today has PFAFF, and let me switch. Oh, you can't see. The shirt I'm wearing today has PFAFF embroidered on it. Yep, this way. And I used this. I love this stuff. Okay, that's cutaway. I'm going to move these off the table and show you some tearaway. So we've got tearaway. I've got tear and wash. Sometimes I use Aqua Magic on towels. Sometimes I use tear and wash. Depends on what color the towel is. If it's white, I use tear and wash. That way I can do a more dense design. Otherwise, I'd have to use 2 layers of Aqua Magic. And then this is a long roll of tearaway for your big hoops. So here's the difference. This is really great for your bigger hoops. Different heights, different yardages, whatever you need. PFAFF has a lot of options. You can look at that up at your local retailer, or you can go online to PFAFF.com. We've got the Dissolve Away and the Aqua Magic. And then there's one more I wanted to share with you today. And this isn't touching on all of them. This is just the basics, like I said. This is Light and Soft Fuse On. This is the only one that you use after the embroidery is complete. So say you have made a little tank top and you're worried that some of these knots might irritate somebody's skin. You can take a piece of this and fuse it over top to hide all those stitches. This is really, really soft and it irons on. So you can cut it to the shape, extend a good, I'd say probably half an inch outside of where the stitching and other stabilizer ends, and then fuse this on. Okay. I have some more samples to show you. We saw this one with the fusible whisper web and whisper web. I also did one with tearaway so that you can see the difference. You see how this is, it's stretched. Let me zoom in here. See if we can get it close enough. It's a little bit stretched, a little bit puckered. This fabric, when we hooped it, we used the wrong stabilizer and we hooped it too tight. So let me show you hoop. I might need to zoom out a little bit. That's the right way. All right. Oh, now you can see my supplies that I was trying to hide. So our hoop has a quick release latch and a screw, outer frame, inner frame. You would take, let me get some stabilizer, scissors. You want to extend a good inch outside. Paper scissors, not fabric scissors, so that I don't go to sewist jail. Put my label right back on so that my different rolls of stabilizer don't get mixed up. Okay, now this is curling up. One of the things I like to do is just hoop the stabilizer first. And then I mash the edges so it lays better when I'm ready to hoop fabric. Isn't that nice? No more curling up. Yay. Now, oh, I should have used Aqua Magic. But this is just for demonstration. I have a piece of fabric. I'm going to lay it flat and put the hoop in, and then I'm going to close the quick release latch. This is pretty tight. If it doesn't click pretty easily, loosen the screw. It should click like that. And then look at the back. This corner looks pretty good. This corner looks good. This corner has a gap. Let me see if I can finagle it so the camera can see. Can't see from that angle. There we go. You can kind of see the gap there. We want this corner to be flat, so I'm going to push this there. Now you can see the difference. So once that is flat, and this is taut like a drum, it is taut, not tight. There's still a little play in the fabric here, which is really good. We do not want to ever pull on it like this. If it needs that much adjusting, we should take the hoop off, smooth it out, and hoop it again. But once you're satisfied with your corners, you can go ahead and tighten the screw. Now we just need it to be tight. We don't need to keep screwing and screwing and screwing until it stops, because what happens, this little nut here, let's see if I can get it in the frame. There we go. This little nut here has threads on it. So if we tighten this too much, it actually unscrews here. This flies off, pops, goes across the room, and then you have to go find it. We're not here for that. So let's see. What else can I tell you about the hoops?
Laura, do you have time for a question?
Sure, that'd be great.
I'm pretty sure that this is about the knit fabrics.
Okay.
So we wondered if floating the fabric on the stabilizer would be a good option so that you don't end up stretching the garment out of shape.
That is a great option. You can, let me get my other one here. And then I need to come back to parts of the hoop. I can do it on this one too. Okay, so this one I have in the hoop, but what you could do is turn it, and then your machine has a function called baste in hoop, and you can touch the baste button and it will put a box around your design. You can choose based around design or based around hoop. Just depends how much room you have. This little shirt, I would choose based around design. But if it was a bigger shirt, you could maybe based around hoop. But yes, so you would have your stabilizer hooped and then just put this on top without having this clipped in. That's called floating. Very good question. I can tell we have some experts watching here. So that is an option. You can baste the fabric to the stabilizer. And there's other times when that can be handy too, but t-shirts and knits is definitely the most popular time for that. Okay. And then more parts of the hoop here. We have these little, I don't know, notches, but they pop up. This shows you where the center of your design is. And you can see, let me lay this a little flatter. The center of your design is not in the center of your hoop. The center of the hoop is like up here, and the center of your design is like down here. That is because your hoop has a margin. You can't actually embroider all the way to the edge. There's a margin for your presser foot so that your presser foot doesn't hit the hoop, so we don't accidentally stitch through the hoop. So the margin is about a finger's width on each side, a finger's width at the bottom, but it's about 2 fingers width at the top. So that's how the center of our design ends up lower than the center of the hoop. On bigger hoops, we have these notches. That is for using hoop clips, which is a way to float. If you have something delicate like nylon or silk, or something that shouldn't be hooped because it would crush the fabric, like velvet, we can lay the fabric on top and then use our hoop clips in those slots to hold our fabric and not destroy our fabric in the process. Another example of using the importance of using different kinds of stabilizers. So I have these bookmarks that I made, and on one I used regular tearaway and one I used tear and wash. I don't know why I used tear and wash on one because that was not the right choice. But let me bring this closer so you can see the difference. It's not really shiny. So this one, the edge is nice and crisp. This one, the edge is fuzzy. Let's see if I can. There, shows up at the top a little better. See how fuzzy that edge is? That's because I used tear and wash on this one. Tear and wash leaves little fibers behind that strengthen your embroidery over time, which is why I like to use it on washcloths and towels. But since it leaves white, I really only use it on white towels. Let's look at the importance of topper. So I stitched out this little snowman, and on this side, I did not use topper. So we can see, or we will see in a minute, here the towel is poking through. You can see it on the mittens a little bit, but you can see it on the hat. The towel is poking through. And on this other side, I used Dissolve Away. You can see how much nicer that looks. Nice and smooth, nothing poking through. It's the little things that make a big difference, right? So now we contrast and we can see what a difference that makes. I also use topper on Minky. There's a lot of kids in my family, so I've been making plushies. Some of you may have seen this guy before. But during the process of making him, this is a girl one. He needed a girlfriend. I might need to zoom out a little more. Let's see if I can. The hoop is too big. There we go. So you can see there's a lot of glare on it, and that is from the Dissolve Away. That keeps the nap down. I've got cords all over the place, so it's a little hard to show some of this. So you can see the bubbles in the Minky are kind of flattened out. That holds that down so that when we're done, our details appear. Okay. Another thing we have that is absolutely wonderful is metal hoops. So if you have a towel or a fleece blanket, something thick that is hard to squeeze between the layers of the, like on the plastic hoop, it can be hard to get something thick in between the layers, in between the outside and inside hoop. That's where the metal hoops come in. They are super flat. You just lay down your fabric, you lay down your stabilizer, and you lay down your fabric, and then you put the magnets on. Let me see if I have a. Well, I will just cut some aqua magic. There we go.
Laura.
Yeah.
While you're cutting that, we do have a question about toppers.
Okay, good.
Would you also recommend using a topper for knit fabrics, like that t-shirt that you were showing before?
For me, that varies. If it is a thick knit, like a polo shirt, I would, because your stitches are going to have a tendency to sink down into that, and the topper helps prevent that. For this little one, pull it back over. I didn't use topper with this because the fabric is so thin, it didn't need it. But if the design was any denser, I might have, just to give it something more to hold on to. So in general, I would use a topper if it was thick, but if it was thin, I'm more likely to use an extra layer of something on the bottom than an extra layer of something on the top. So we could float. So a metal hoop is essentially a floating hoop. We lay our stabilizer on. We get our shirt or whatever. We use the magnets. Being careful not to stretch. We're going to smooth it, but we're not going to pull it. If you accidentally pull it, just pick it up a little bit, maybe smooth it out. This is not centered. We do have centering notches on here also. There's a velvet surface on this to help grip your fabric, and then raised notches here so that even when you can't see it, you can feel where it goes. Let me try and get this center here. Down. This little tiny 100 by 100 hoop is about the only way I can embroider a newborn onesie, because they are just so tiny. And then, I don't think I have any, but we have a set of metal guides that you can use to hold your shirt open also. You can use your hands. Whoops, I'm pushing it. You can use your hands. You can use the magnets. So I've got a magnet here. I could layer this up a little bit and try and put the magnet through a couple of those layers and maybe hold it open. That's not bad. Just make sure you're not stretching what's here. You can stretch this part, that's fine. So that holds it open too. Yeah, so that's floating on a metal hoop. Here is a towel that's textured. We would need Aqua Magic. We would need topper. We would probably need a metal hoop because it's a thick towel. It's not a cheapy towel. And I have, what's funny is when I teach this as a class, it's a 2-hour class, but we're 30 minutes in, and that's all I had. I can show you one more thing. I can take questions if you have any more questions. I'm going to show you a pair of earrings because these are really cute. This is freestanding lace. The design is available in the My Sonnet library. We've used like a penny colored thread on the top and in the bobbin, just matching embroidery thread for this. And then some gemstones, some little glue-on rhinestones. It's very light. If you like big earrings, but you don't like the weight of them, these thread earrings are wonderful. I can also give you a tip on freestanding lace. When you have rinsed out the stabilizer, so this is the same part before and after, rinse out the stabilizer, You can use a press cloth and iron it super flat. A lot of times when we rinse out the stabilizer, this has a tendency to curl, but it's really easy to iron it flat. It lays nice. Do we have any more questions?
I'm checking here. Somebody has some beach towels
Uh-huh.
that are made from 220 grams, I think that's per square meter, recycled polyester
Oh,
and polyamide. I think that's a stretch. Not much of a nap. And they want to know, what kind of stabilizer do you think you would use for that? Beach towels with some stretch.
I would use Aqua Magic on the back. Let me see, where is it? Here we go. I'd use Aqua Magic on the back. And even though it doesn't have much surface on the top, I would still use Dissolve Away, because that sounds like a high quality towel. And when you've invested in a really nice towel, you want your embroidery to look just as good as it possibly can. And it's better to just use a few inches of this and ensure that it looks absolutely perfect.
I don't see any other questions.
Okay. Well, in that case, I will bid you all happy stitching. Have a great afternoon. We'll see you again soon. Oh, I need to tell you, we are having a special My Sewnet Live with 3 of our educators. We're going to have Sonny, Meredith, and our singer educator, Carly. They are going to demonstrate some really exciting features of the My Sewnet quilting software. That will be on Tuesday, March 4th at 3 p.m. Eastern or noon Pacific. And then the next Sewnet Live after that will be a 3-day event, March 11, 12, and 13, again at 3 Eastern, noon Pacific, with Meredith, who will be working also with the quilting and crafting software, showing you different ways to have your cutting machine help you cut out your quilt. Now, I've seen a preview of what she's doing, and it looks wonderful. You are going to love this. As far as PFAFF, the next PFAFF Facebook Live will be Thursday, March 6th, again at 3 Eastern, noon Pacific. It will also be with Meredith, who will be sharing quilting features you can't live without. This will be great for all levels of quilters and sewers. Does anyone have any last minute questions?
Somebody was wondering if that lace heart that you showed is available on, is that a My Sewnet design?
It is. This is the one in the My Sewnet library. And then I took it into the software and inserted a color change so that I could do 2 colors. And now I stitch it out in multiple varieties for everyone. Oh, I have a white one too. There we go. So yeah, if you go to My Sewnet library and search freestanding lace, you could add freestanding lace heart and it will pull this up. If you just do freestanding lace, it will bring up all sorts of things, including the star and the earrings. Lots of different Christmas ornaments.
And somebody else is asking about the plushie, about the monster pieces of parts. Is that also available on My Sewnet?
The parts of the monster are. So all the design files are separate. The eyes, the nose, the mouth, they're all separate design files. And there's multiple ones. So you can create your own monster. These are the same eyes. but different. This mouth has a tongue, no nose on her. This nose, yeah. So there are, let's see. I don't remember the search term for it, but
I think it may be in the collections. I think there may be a collection that has all of the different pieces, parts in one collection.
I think you're right.
Yeah, I think so. I think, Vivian, if you look in the collections section of my Sonnet, you'll find the monsters in there.
Yep. Collections, and if you use search term monster, it should bring it up as well, or narrow it down. All right. What else?
I think that looks to be the last of the questions.
Okay, great. Well, thank you everyone for your time and participation. This guy thanks you too. Can't wait to meet his girlfriend. Y'all have a great afternoon, and we will see you soon. Bye-bye.